Lynn, reach over and just hit him real hard. And tell him that's for the 2 he missed or added to it. 10 commandments. Why are there only 10? God thought that was enough. You know, he covers a wide range of things through that. 4 of them deal with man's relationship with God. 6 of them deal with man's relationship to men or mankind. Undoubtedly, we needed more guidance on dealing with each other than we do with him. Verse 3, you shall have no other gods before me. What does that mean? No other gods. What is a god? Anything that you lift up and provide some kind of honor or worship or cherish can become a god. It doesn't have to be idols or various things. You yourself, really in today's society, a lot of people's gods they see every day in the mirror. It's called humanism. You are the ultimate. The world will teach you that. It's all about you. So do what you need to do. But God says there are no other gods. There's no other creator. There's no other one that's ever done anything. So that's a basic, not a commandment. It's the truth. He said, there are no other, and you shall not have any. Literally, he has spoken against paganism and worship from Genesis all the way through Revelation. But he says, there are none, so don't have any. And then in verse 4, he gives you the second one. He says, you shall not make for yourself any idol or likeness of what is in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers on the children, on the 3rd and 4th generations of those who hate me. Can well-meaning folks in a religious culture create idols? Can you think of one? Huh? Money? I'm talking, let's keep it in the religious, huh? The crucifix? Is that? What? Phone. He didn't. She's on track. You just sit over there and listen to your wife. You're right. The phone can be one, but in the religious sector, I'm looking for within the church. Huh? A man, not just one. The Virgin Mary. Ritualism. The saints. The rosary was getting a Baptist church. Of course, I know as Baptists we don't have any idols. That right back there. You can worship the cross and not worship the one that died on the cross. You remember the old movies when they was going to kill a vampire? Or you could hold a cross up in front of a vampire and he'd run from you? No, he wouldn't. Cross is a couple pieces of wood. You stand there in front of him with Jesus in your life, now he'll run from him. Satan is not scared of the cross. But he's deathly afraid of the one that died on the cross. Well, water, holy water. People will sell people, if you'll take this holy water, it's a little vial of water, we'll sell it to you for $10. And this water will relieve you of your pain. Healing water and stuff. Yeah, or incense, various things. Folks, you don't need those things. That's becoming idols. You're ascribing godly deity to something that's created. You want to get healed, you want some things, go to the God who created you. But well-meaning people will tend to lift up stuff. And I'm talking about church people. That's why I said the phone, money, those things, yeah, that's for sure. Humanism. But even within the church, God's people will begin to worship a building. We've got to have the best building. We can't meet in an old tin barn. We got to build something and really get out there. We got to spend millions of dollars. Why can't you meet in a barn? Brad, we met in a barn for a long time, didn't we? Everything we've ever met in has been a barn. My shop to this. We make it a little nicer. But what is this? It's a building. It tries to keep the heat, cold, the rain, place where you can be comfortable. But it has nothing. Don't worship the preacher. He said the Pope, but don't worship the preacher. I don't have to worry about that. But I've seen people that when the preacher leaves and moves on, people just throw up their hand. Well, the church is over. Better not be. If a church is surrounded by one individual and depend on him other than Jesus, they're there for the wrong reason. But we create idols. And what did he say? Don't. And when he talks about this visiting to the third and fourth generation, this is the passing on of this mindset and this thought. And it carries on from generation to generation and typically gets worse because it's ingrained in them, and that's where tradition is real problem in Baptist churches. Lots of churches, but I mean, us Baptists, we can get to the place where we have to do everything one way. And if we don't do it that way, we're not having church, or you can't worship. I was trying to get to some people one time, and they said, well, we don't got time to church on Sunday. And on the weekends, we go fishing. I said, good thing about this Bible? It's mobile. I said, we come have church at the creek. Oh, no. See, I got them backing up because they didn't have time for that. But I said, you can have church wherever you want. But we tend to want to create them and even do it in a religious sense to say, this is good. But it becomes an idol. And then it's passed on to generation. And next thing you know, you find out where we're at today. What's the third one? Verse 7, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. For the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. What does that mean? Vain. The word God is, in English, is first all, you look up there, it's capitalized. A while ago, in verse 3, it was a small one. God's not the name of the God we serve. He's got personal names. First of all, one of them is El. And then after that, the Hebrews would apply, like El Shaddai and stuff. But he was also given various names, Yahweh. The word Yahweh, or Y-W-H, yeah. There, Caleb, look at, he's cheating. He's not that smart. He's got it there. Y-W-H, whatever. the Jewish scribes who were transcribing Scripture, when they got to God's name, took an entirely different quill and ink to write God's name, because His name was not common. Therefore, they did not use the same instruments that they wrote the rest of the Scripture down. So every time they got to God's name, they honored it so much they used an entirely different instrument to write it, trying to honor God. That's why I despise things like, I don't do it, but text and Facebook, OMG. Do you really know what you just said? Oh, I don't mean anything by it. You just dishonored God's name by doing it. And in GD, that cuss word really offends me. You can say anything in the book, and I can deal with it. I do not like that one. This vulgarity is everywhere, but to take God's name in vain, that really bothers me, because what does He say? You're gonna get punished. He's gonna remember it. Anytime you take God for less than who He is, you're dishonoring His name. And so it's not only in what you say, but how you say it and what you do with it. You're supposed to be lifting Him up above all things, so people will know. So guard your words. Because if you're telling somebody about God's love and then you turn around and use His name in a curse word, you just use the same word, because the English word is God. You just put them all together. Is that lifting Him up or tearing Him down? Be careful. Number 4. How many days shall you labor? 6 days you shall labor, and on the 7th you should honor the Sabbath. There's a lot of questions right here. First of all, when I got saved, I really struggled with this, because I was working at a job that required me to work Sundays. And I was kind of looking for an excuse to quit anyway. But I had a preacher tell me, he said, now what does it say? 6 days. Do you get a day off? I said, yeah. Now we had to work 7 days, and then when we get days off, it's 7-day rotation. But he said, why do we have this? Why are we given this day? A couple of reasons. What's the first one? Rest. Your body needs to rest. How many of you in here have worked 7 days a week for a long period of time? I know a bunch of these guys have and stuff. I mean, overtime and stuff, various places. Huh? You ain't never worked 7 days a year. Anyway, I'm picking on her. What do you feel like after about 3 weeks? You know, your body is designed to have a day of rest, a day of doing nothing. I used to think I couldn't live off 6 days' work. I'd take 7. I'd tear up more on that 7th day than I ever made. But your body needs it for rest. The other thing is, you need a day to worship. Used to, Sundays were recognized in America that you didn't schedule other things. Matter of fact, the old blue laws, you couldn't even sell a lot of stuff in stores. A lot of stores were closed and stuff because there were certain things you could sell, and so much you couldn't that it wasn't worth them opening. But then all of a sudden, they repealed the blue law, and everything's open. Everything's there. So everybody's weekends are full. We can go do everything, and we fail to worship. We fail to rest. Can y'all think of one business that works 6 days a week? Well, I'm talking about Chick-fil-A. You can't guess it. Do you remember when there was a movement to try to make them go 7 days a week? And they said no. And they said that business model will never make it. Any of you driven by Chick-fil-A lately? They were one of the first places I ever saw that had to put dual drive-in deals to get the orders. There were so many cars. This one at Mount Pleasant, you drive by there, you might as well keep on driving most days because it's lined up. But that business model won't work. What the world says. It's working pretty good for Chick-fil-A. It's good for their employees. It's good for their bottom line because people know they're going to be closed on Sunday. You ain't going to eat Chick-fil-A on Sunday. Because they take and honor God through it, and God blesses. I remember an interview with an old farmer in Kansas. And they were talking to him, and this was years ago. They talked about him not working on Sunday. He said, you know, all my neighbors, they work on Sunday. He said, I make as much money as they do. And I get a day of rest. He said, every now and then I got to get out on a Sunday, but typically I don't do it. They said, what about harvest time? He said, that weed will be there tomorrow. If not, God will bless me with what I got. But he said, I ain't working on Sunday. And all his neighbors said, oh, he's a fool. He never does. But he was content. And he took some rest and enjoyed his family and spent some time with his God. And I promise you, God honored that. You can work yourself to death. You can have all the money and all the land and all the toys and everything else you want. And then you may not even get up tomorrow to be able to use it. You better honor God and take care of that first. And guys, girls, your job may require you to work 7 days, but find your time to be alone and to rest. Make a decision. I told a company one time they wanted me to work 7 days a week. I said, no. You're at work or we'll fire you. That was on a Monday. Came weekend, I worked 6 days, and I worked. When I left Saturday, I'll see y'all Monday. Everybody, oh, you don't come tomorrow, you won't be here. I got there Monday, and they put me on my bulldozer and put me to work. Nobody said a word to me. And I did that every week. And a boy came to me and said, I don't know why they don't fire you. If I took a Sunday off, they'd fire me. I said, go to church on Sunday and tell them that's why you're not here, and you may be surprised. But I also knew that I could have been fired. You have to make some decisions sometimes to find out where your faith is. What would I have done if they'd fired me? Found me another job. I was looking for one when I found that one. My God is capable. He is able. I had some options. So those first four all relate to God. The next one, 5, honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord your God gives you. To me, that's a hard one for kids today because a lot of them don't have a father. Some of them don't have a mother. Some of them got fathers and mothers that are abusive. Should we not honor an abusive one? Or does honor mean something different? That's a tough decision, isn't it? My thought is you honor them for being your parent, even if they're bad. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It doesn't mean what they do is always right, because there's times a child needs to be out of a home. I'll tell you right quick. But in most instances, if a kid will learn to honor his father and mother, it changes the whole dynamic. And there again, I don't like what I see in the world today. My pet peeve is for a kid to sit there and tell them, a 3 or 4 year old kid telling mom and dad what they ought to be doing. No. Caleb, did that ever work with you? You're right. That was a good no, because it didn't. We weren't always right, but we had rules at our house. And when I look back on my mom and dad, and there was a period of time they were stupid. I had all the answers, and that lasted for about 4 or 5 years. Then I found out they were way smarter than I ever thought they were. And I'm thankful. I had a good mom and daddy. It helped shape me into who I am today. I wished I'd honored them more, because I really gave my mama a hard time. But we should always honor and recognize it. And you as parents and grandparents, you know what you've done for your child. You the sacrifices. I've watched mamas push a plate aside and say, no, I don't want any more, y'all want it, just so the kids would have enough. Carla, how many chickens did your mama ever fry up for that herd? Just one? Just one? Y'all didn't know our brothers. It would take 3 to fill up one of them. But you know what? Back in those days, you could stretch a chicken. Everybody got a part. Mama could cut one up, and you think McDonald's created chicken nuggets? Marlene Higgins created chicken nuggets. She chopped that thing up and fried it all, and everybody got a piece. You cut the breast in half, you cut the pulley bone out, fried the neck, the gizzard. We fried everything but the cluck. And we all got something. Because mamas and daddies will sacrifice whatever for their kids. And they deserve some honor. I hope we always instill that in our little kids. I love to see these kids, when they have some respect, and do that. Another one is controversial for a lot of people. Now, this translation, you shall not murder. The old King James says what? You shall not kill. A lot of soldiers have dealt with this because they're not understanding the difference, especially going into war. One of them is Gary Cooper in Sergeant York. Another one is the Seventh-day Adventist, but was the pacifist and became a medic. And Hacksaw Ridge, very powerful deal. But he took the word kill. He wasn't afraid to go to war. He just didn't want to kill. But the true translation is murder. Because there's times, because first of all, did God command to kill at times? All right. So to use the word kill means God contradicts himself. But where God uses the word kill, he's talking about the destruction of paganism and various things to do that. Or to kill those who've offended his laws. God himself has destroyed many a person. What's the difference between kill and murder? Huh? The intent. Cain murdered Abel. Why? Jealous, anger, bitterness. Planned. Murdered out of an emotion. Made the decision himself. War puts you in a place where you have to do certain things. Stuff. And stuff. And then self-defense is another thing. If somebody coming at you, you kill them. That's not murder. Self-defense. A society is allowed to kill certain offenders. The Bible commands it. But nowhere does the Bible tolerate the murder. In other words, you don't have the right to make a decision to go get mad at somebody and kill them just because you're angry with them. It's a different. Yeah, Brad pointed his heart. He knows. Goldie would like to kill him sometime, but her heart won't let her. Plus, you'd have to call Clifton and Brady would ask questions. And well, he'd ask questions, and Goldie would tell him why. And he'd say, well, you're justified, Goldie. Go ahead. But the intent of the heart and the purpose is there. And that's where this is going. And we should properly interpret that. The number 7th one, you shall not commit adultery. What's adultery? Does adultery have to be physical? Jimmy Carter was asked a question, and this would go way back before some of y'all was even alive. If he'd ever committed adultery on his wife, he said hundreds of times in his mind. But he let him think about that for a little bit. He said, I've never committed the act of adultery, but I've committed adultery hundreds of times because I thought it. Because Scripture says, if you think it, you've done it. He knew his Bible. He wasn't very smart in some other things, but the son gun knew his Bible. Set some people spinning backwards. But adultery happens in your mind before it ever happens physically. That's why we should guard our minds. You shall not steal. You shall not take anything that doesn't belong to you. You know, I thought about this one here the other day, and I thought, what's the greatest thing that's stolen in the workplace today? Huh? Y'all on the same page with me? We don't think about stealing time as anything, but and it is, and that was always a hard thing for me. I worked at a place one time, and they, if they didn't have something going, they thought, we'll just sit around. Keith Higgins beat something in my mind that was hard to get over. I was getting paid to be there. So I'd get up and go get on the lawnmower. And I'd get out there and mow it. And then Kerry Hicks would come out to that shop and he'd rouse the rest of them out. Get on them weed eaters, help Dwayne. They cornered me up one day and said, if you'd stay off that lawnmower, we wouldn't be on them weed eaters. I said, you go get on the lawnmower and I'll be on the weed eater. But I didn't like that. I was taught to work. But I've stolen my share of time too. But that's probably the number one thing that people steal is time. But they say, I never taken anything. You took some time that you didn't get. You shall not lie. Bear false witness against your neighbor. Who's your neighbor? Everybody. Man, we are people who love to lie, especially if they're doing something against us, we'll make up something to try to tear them down. Shall not lie. And the one that always gets everybody. It's got the lawyer who came to Jesus, wanted to know what he needed to do to get to heaven, and he was a rich man, and Jesus told him about the first four. Oh, we've done all those. He said, go sell what you have. Well, first of all, he did all these last six, then he went to the first four. That's what he did. He said, go sell all that you have and give it to the poor and come follow me. See, he went away sad because he just broke the second commandment. He had an idol. It was his money. But people tend to covet or want what somebody else has got. Is that not what a thief does? He sees what you've got, he wants it. Coveting is wanting what somebody else has got. It leads to a lot of adultery. Somebody is admiring somebody else's spouse. The next thing you know, they're trying to have an adulterous affair. Coveting, just wanting what somebody else has got. Or working hard to try to earn enough money to have what they used to call keeping up with the Joneses. You're coveting. So it causes you to break all these others. You want what somebody else has got. And if you'll listen to God, you'll find out He knows exactly what you need. And when you look back on your life, and I guess getting old, you can't hear, you can't see, and you can't think very much. You forget, so you just think about what God's done for you. And I look back on my life, and I see the times, if I'd had my will, where I would have been. But because God intervened, He kept me focused on what was good. And now I'm 65 years old, and I get to look at my family, and I look at my children and my grandchildren, and I think I was misguided for a long time. Because I got 8 of the best grandkids there ever was, and they love the Lord. They're serving the Lord, and that's a blessing. If I'd done some of the things that I wanted, there's no telling where they may have been. But God had to keep me off them side trails sometimes. Because I tended to want to wander and be happy with what you got. And I'm finally getting there. Most of the time. Almost there. I'm real happy. Always something else I think I could use, but I'm pretty happy. I could live with just what I got right now. Got a good life, place to stay, good family, good friends, good church. I'm pretty happy. I just get to enjoy life. Don't covet, because it gets me in trouble. But we all struggle with all these. 10's enough. Boy, I tell you, I'm glad we don't have 12 like Ronnie thought. He knew better. He just aggravated me because I picked on him about making Miss Lynn mow his yard. You showed me the video, Bubba. You knew if you showed me something like that, I could come up with something to give you a hard time about. But, boy, we can't keep 10, much less 12 or 14. But they're pretty simple. You take care of the first 4, and the next 6 will come pretty easy. And first 4, it sure goes a long ways on helping on those others. because that's what's important. And them folks out there waiting for me to let them in there. What do you think? We just ought to sit here and look at them and they stand out there in the heat, wave at them, say, "Hey, it's cold in here." Said Jana waving at it. Hey, thank y'all for being here. We're going to start eating in August 9th. Going to have tacos. So my cooks have had enough time off. Going to give them one more week, and then we're going to go back to cooking and stuff. And we got to get some mess up some dishes so R.D. can wash them. Raise your right hand, Ronnie. You see that leather deal? We're going to get that thing soaking wet in August. We did. Yeah, he's sitting there right by next to Lynn. We didn't need to spend no money. Let me tell you a praise. Let me tell you a praise right quick. We ordered a Vinahood. First of all, the restaurant supply where we bought all the stuff quoted us a price of $30,000 for a Vinahood. $30,000 for a Vinahood. We said, we'll open a window. But, so we get online. Caleb did. You know who did. No, I actually did it. I actually did. I found this one. That's why it cost. We found one on Amazon for $77.79. Caleb has an Amazon account. He ordered it. Tax and everything was going to be $8,400. I said, look here, order that thing. Saving $22,000. He told me today, he said they kicked that thing out. My credit card wasn't no good, I guess. They kicked us out. We couldn't. He bought it on his deal, used our credit card, and then bought it out, kicked it out. He got online and found one for it. Shipping and everything, $5,500, just like it. God saved us $3,000. So me and Tony and R.D. and Mike going to load up and go to the restaurant supply, and we're going to buy something else. $3,000. God said, "Here, yeah." Dish rags. We're going to buy a bunch of dish rags. We got a dishwasher, I'm telling you. But isn't that neat? You could have, when he said that, we could have thrown up our arm. I said, But God turned around and gave us an even better deal. Straight from the factory. So we've saved now $25,000 by doing a little shopping online. No, we didn't save that much because there wasn't no way they're going to get $30,000 out of me for Vino. We'll cut a hole in the window. In the back wall. It wasn't. But anyway, God's blessing bringing it together. I got a price on our drop ceiling Jimmy. It's $2,000 cheaper than I thought. Things are coming together. So we're almost there. God's blessed. Everything's going to be paid for. And we're just going to have a big time. May take us a little while, but we're getting there. I had a lot of good work, helpers, and it's been good. This I'm going to tell all my helpers. When we get a little closer and get the kitchen open up, I've got some prime rib that we're going to cook. So if you want to get in on the prime rib, buddy, y'all better get up here and start doing some work, because I don't have enough to feed everybody on Wednesday, but I got enough. I thought, where do you use it? I said, I've got some guys that's been busting their tail, and me and my cooks will be here to help, because we get the leftovers. So, but God's blessed. We got 2 ham and burger out there in the lot right now. Pray that they grow. Ham and burgers out there and stuff. So they eat watermelons or whatever. But they're in October, they've got a date in Mount Pleasant that they're not going to, it's going to just overwhelm them. Yeah, they will come back, but it'll be in small packages. We've been blessed, folks. God has really turned out a blessing on us. Y'all pray for our sick. Melinda's got a list for Linda. and some others. I mean, there's a lot of people hurting. If you do something, she got a list if you want in on that. And so God's good. Father, thank you. We love you. Take care of us. Watch over us this week. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Go get them.